Greetings, everyone. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. Hold on one second. Let me get the banner going. Everyone, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Wednesday, hump day afternoon. Greatly appreciate it. It means a lot, guys. Thank you for the support. We are approaching 100K subscribers. Again, we are approaching 100K subscribers. If you're watching this, you know, your mama, your auntie, your cousin, your niece, your next door neighbor, your haters, your kids, everyone needs to know about Search for Uhuru. And they all need to subscribe. If they are not subscribed, they need to subscribe. If you know they are watching junk on YouTube, tell them to take a break from the junk and come over here and join us, all right, where we have intelligent conversations. Now, they get rowdy sometimes, all right, they get rowdy, but we shifting in a different direction. But tell them to come enjoy intelligent conversations that the diaspora takes place between the diaspora on this platform. Come and join us. So this bag, like I said, when we get to 100K, a lucky person out there, one of you, you're going to win, have the opportunity to win this bag. Again, you're going to have the opportunity to win this bag. I'm ready to give it away. I'm ready to ship it out to somebody. So like, share, subscribe, go to dynastymir.com, check us out. Without further ado, we have our good brother on with us, Obstacles to Opportunities. And today we're going to have a uncomfortable, and this conversation is a very, for sometimes, Dynas fixed the heading title. What happened? What's wrong with the title? Hold on. Audrey, what's wrong with the title? Is capitalism wrongfully demonized? Is my grammar off? Is it spelled wrong, Audrey? Fix the heading title. Audrey, you got to give me specifics, but everyone, I know this topic for some reason is controversial in these spaces, the evil word capitalism. So is it wrongfully demonized? Brother, obstacles to opportunities. What are your thoughts on that term, capitalism?
Oh, man. So first of all, shout out. Thanks for having me on the channel. As far as the capitalism, I feel like it's an argument. I mean, not an argument. I feel like it's a conversation that would go back and forth. People would be like, oh, yeah, capitalism, X, Y, and Z. Then the other side would be, oh, yeah, da, 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 da. I think what's demonized more so is not even capitalism, just winning. Winning is demonized. So therefore, we constantly lose. I think we think it's like actually pretty holy and actually ethically and morally righteous to keep taking these L's we taking. But nevertheless, as far as capitalism, is it demonized by some uplifted, some demonize it? I don't care. I just care about end results.
Okay, appreciate you pointing that out, Audrey. Okay, I see where I messed up at.
Okay.
Yeah, I see where I messed up at. Thank you, Audrey, for pointing that out. Why do our people demonize capitalism? And is capitalism an evil thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably a multifaceted problem with a massive amounts of variables to why people do it. Many different reasons, experiences, education, information, indoctrination, propaganda, and just I would say that's probably it. But maybe there's some other reasons for it. But I don't know. I mean, what I really came on, hopefully I could talk about is just, ways in which we can get money, make currency, make form of stored energy. And I think that's more essential, so what system or what vehicle we're using. Many different countries have many different systems. Like if you go to America, it's just capitalism, if you could say that. And then some would argue different. Some will argue it's an oligarch. Some will also it's a corporatocracy. Some will argue it's massive amounts of names for it. And then other people in other countries, they have capitalism or communism and mixed with socialism. So I mean, this is a constant debate about X, Y, and Z. So I would rather talk about the details of what we can do to make sure that we're winning, regardless of the system.
Okay, Pan Africanism Strikes Back says, use words we understand. We went to public school. All right, yeah, but let's go ahead and jump right into it, brother. Obstacle to
Yeah.
opportunities.
All right, cool. So, like I said, I don't like doing that stuff where we sit up here and we conversate about like, oh, X, Y, and Z, and we go back and forth and we just argue all day about whether capitalism's evil is bad while we're sitting around all broke and we all go to work and we all work about 9 to 5 jobs or even more to get money every single day. But we sit up here and talk about capitalism being X, Y, and Z. Or what? I'm not trying to talk about that. What I'm trying to talk about is our biggest misconception about money and expenses, about what we see as assets and what we label as liabilities, and then try to actually figure out the differences. So if I would hop into it, right? The most important thing for us to start creating is assets, right? Assets. And most people will say, what is assets, right? Assets is property owned by a person or a company. Let's keep it simple. You owning a property, right? Let's just go there, right? Now, when I talk about assets, we're talking about assets that put money in your pocket, not take money out of your pocket, right? So in order to call something an asset, it has to be something that put money in your pocket, all right? Now, when we talk about liabilities, I'm gonna break this down. So we're not sitting up here like, oh, big words, right? So things which somebody's responsible for, a debt, right? A financial obligation. But a debt, right? It has to be something that is not something that's going to produce value for you. It's not going to produce more money for you. So if I take on debt to get a car, that car is an expense. I have insurance, I have gas, I have maintenance, right? So I have to pay for a lot of things. So that's a liability. If I take out debt to go to school and get a degree that doesn't have a good return on that investment, meaning basket weaving. If I master in basket weaving, what are the good jobs in basket weaving? That's bad debt. So that's a liability. So we take on massive amounts of liability. I'm pretty sure, Dennis, you heard before, invest in education. You heard this before, right?
Right, of course.
You heard it all the time. Invest in education, invest in education. Well, how can you invest in education if you haven't educated yourself on investments?
Right.
You have to educate yourself on investments because you're going to pursue education for some other end result. What you want to do, what's your passion? Well, what's your desires, Dinus? What's in your heart? What lies in your passion? Now you're going to start going to school trying to chase your passion. You understand? Instead of chasing what is actually going to give you a return on your investment. So, and you invest a lot of money, right? So we don't want to do that. So when we talk about, like I said, acquiring assets, we're going to do misconception. So if you ever read the book, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And this book basically explains massive amounts of things, but how to gain wealth in America, for an example. And it goes to other countries too. But anyways, let's continue. Most people think the average home is their actual asset when it's a liability. They have to spend money.
Expand on that.
Yeah, I got you. So they have to spend money. They have to pay for the PI, principal and interest, the mortgage. They have to pay for the property taxes, right? And then they have to pay for the homeowner insurance. And then they have to pay for maintenance, right? So they have to pay all these expenses instead of figuring out a way on how to get a house that's going to generate them money. I mean, today you can even house hack your house by doing what? Renting out your units, renting out the basement, right? So if you're not doing that, then you're not going to be able to make money to pay off your mortgage. You are totally liable to pay off the mortgage and all the other things I told you. So we need to stop chasing those dreams. That's why I preach a lot about house hacking. You can look up the word in Google and figure out how to house hack via YouTube and Google. It's 2021. There's no more excuses. So with that being said, we're trying to switch the misconception of I own a home, so therefore I have an asset. and it means something. Because what I said is it's a liability. The moment you lose your job, you're stuck in a situation. The moment that you're behind on your mortgage, you're stuck in a situation. But with house hacking, a multi-unit, a triplex, a quad, or even that single family, renting out those other rooms, you're able to generate money to actually pay your mortgage. So now you turn your largest expense, which most people, their largest expense is going to be the actual housing. That is their largest expense they pay every month. Most money that people make go to housing. So I'm trying to tell you not to stop watching Netflix, stop spending money on Spotify, which costs like $10 or something. Why am I going to stop you from spending $10? That's what we're going to build a whole financial vehicle for, so I can stop you from spending $10. No. What I'm going to try to do is say, what is your biggest expense? And that is housing and transportation. And we're going to try to reduce that. And when we reduce those expenses, then you could save $600, $700 a month. And then when you start saving that type of money, then you can start investing that money in Africa, get your ass or get off your ass in cold call and start.
Hold on. Stop the show. Stop the show. Go to Amazon.com, buy your copy. Again, go to Amazon.com. Make sure you buy your copy of Get Off Your Ass and Cold Call, written by yours truly. Thank you so much. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So when you get off in cold call, then you could use that $700 that you just saved from, like I said, deploying a method of house hacking, whether it's short-term rentals, renting out that extra room in your apartment or your actual house, right? And then, shoot, top of the market right now, houses are selling at an all-time high. I would suggest you redirect that money. Now, those are for people who are homeowners, right? Or even renters. They have to start understanding, how do I start the house hack? Go back and live with your family. Go back and live with your mom dukes. I don't care how old you are, right? Start saving your money and cutting down on those expenses. You know, you ever heard people say, oh, I'm independent. I pay my own rent, right? You heard this before, right?
Right.
So you're proud about that, right? You're proud that you pay somebody else's mortgage. Like what's it called? Like Julian Gordon says, he started a multifamily movement. It's another brother, you can check him out. And he said, next time you have a barbecue, right, Dinus? Next time you invite people over your house, don't say come to my house. Say come to Jane's house, come to Billy's house, because that's who owns the actual house. You don't own it.
Right.
You just rent, right? So don't say come over my house and enjoy my house. Say, guess what? Come over to Billy's house, come over to Jane's house. We having some chicken barbecue, right? So don't start saying these are your keys, that's your house. It's not. You're the bum on the street, right? If you go out in the street and you see a bum sleeping on the bench, right? Y'all about the same. The only difference is y'all own the same amount of houses and he just sleeping on the street. And the bum don't got expenses like you do. I think it's pretty free for him to sleep outside on the streets. So like I said, if you are renting, then move back into your family's house. And if you have a car, then of course we're going to have to figure out how to turn that into an actual asset, something that you can make money with. And there's another good brother. His name is CEO Maddie. CEO Maddie shows people how to rent out their cars on Trulio. He shows them how to actually rent out their cars to make money, because most of the time their cars are not even moving and doing anything, right? Or Uber driving, right? Or Grubhub. And I'm not saying only do that, but I'm saying he shows multiple ways with receipts of how people make money from liabilities, such as cars. And then I told you about how you reduce that major expense, which is rent or the mortgage you pay. So this is the conversations we need to have. But I could take this into a different conversation. I can talk about, is the ancient demons incorporated in capitalism? I can act stupid if you want me to. I can talk about all the other dumb stuff that we spend massive amounts of YouTube time taking up and providing to the people. Getting into deep arguments too. Is it rooted in slavery? Is it rooted in Jim Crow? Is it rooted in... I don't have time for that, because the Egyptians probably had economic systems. Now, whether you want to call it capitalism or you want to call it other forms of socialism, but it still is sprinkled with capitalism. If you want to call it corporatocracy, I don't care. It's irrelevant. I'm telling people, real life people, like the ones that are listening to this channel, how we can figure out, okay, how do I reduce my expenses and how do I redirect my investments from liabilities, which we're used to acquiring, and turn them into assets. We got nice jobs, right? Some people got nice jobs making $50,000 a year, 80,000, right? And I'm not going to go to 100,000, but even if that, net of it is, I've been and I experienced broke rich people too. And you know why they're broke rich? Because when one of the people I know, I don't want to put them on blast, or one of the people I know, right? They left the military, acquired a job, making almost 300,000 dinars a year, right? Got lucky, landed a great job. He didn't get lucky. He just, followed the path I told him to follow, right? But once he got the job, guess what he did? Got himself a $600,000 single family home, right? Bought his wife a new big engagement ring, right? And then on top of it, he bought the new Benzo. He bought the new C300. So as his income rise, so did his expenses and liabilities. So now he's rich broke, right? Still doesn't have money to acquire any type of assets. Still doesn't have money to get himself out of the situation in which he's in. So that's why I try to focus more so on talking about how can people, actually follow these programs, follow these steps, and start thinking differently about money, start thinking differently about whatever you want to call whatever system that's operating. But you can't change the entire, you can change the system, whatever, do whatever you want to. At the end of the day, right? How do you cut down and reduce your expenses? Because you still go to work, you still work hourly pay and try to take that hourly pay and then make money. And then if we get out of that box and we say, oh, you know what, man? I don't want to work for nobody. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Right. I want to be a boss. I want to be a boss of all bosses. Or I want to be whatever dumb stuff, other stupid names we got for each other. After you start doing that, you decide to get yourself into ventures that are heavily taxed also. To be an entrepreneur is self-employed. You get taxed a lot of money for the value in which you create. Instead of moving into a realm like investor, where we don't get taxed any money. So that's where I'm trying to at least allow people to understand, the ones that want to. The rest of the people who want to argue about it, have at it. But I'm not going to join in that conversation. I agree to disagree, or I agree to disengage.
Okay, guys, hit that like button again. Please hit the like button. Also, too, we'll go ahead and open up the let's see here. Don't promote that racist Asian. Oh, we ain't gonna talk about that. All right, guys. Send me an email, Hoover@searchforwhuru.com, or Hoover@searchforwhuru.com. If you'd like to call in and ask a question, again, email is Hoover@searchforwhuru.com. Send me an email, and I will forward you the link, and you could call in and ask your question. Again, you are more than welcome to call in and ask your question. I hope all is well, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscription button, and that bell. And we are rolling to Sierra Leone. Nigeria. We just came back from Sierra Leone, but we're going to Sierra Leone too in November or early December. Come and join us. Again, we are rolling to Nigeria though, August 16th through the 22nd. August 16th through the 22nd. We are rolling. No, there's no number. Send me an email and I will forward you the link. Send me an email and I will forward you the link, and the email is in the chat room. So send me an email, I'll forward you the link of Hoover@searchforwhuru.com. And again, like I said, we are rolling to Nigeria, August 16th through the 22nd. August 16th through the 22nd. If you'd like to roll with us, hit me up. Go to dynastymir.com, send me a message, or go to searchforhuru.com, send me a message, and we will get you all set up. Again, guys, don't be shy. Go ahead and call in. All right, go ahead.
All right, bet. So, and to go in the other direction, just for like 2.0 seconds, whatever system that somebody else wants to make, whether it be economic, whatever you want to call it, you can call it You can call it whatever you want to. The moment you start building buildings and putting people in actual accommodation and housing people and providing electricity, right? And providing good housing and equitable financing and vehicles that are necessary in order for those people to get into those houses, in order for those people to create their own forms of wealth. Once that happens, cool. Let me know. Let's lay it out. Let's do it. Let's start implementing those strategies and starting to build those businesses. But Diners, that ain't happening. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a bean. As of right now, that's not happening. So if it's not going to happen right now, the last thing I want is people to continue to give away their money to acquire more liabilities, acquire more bad debt. I just had a friend right now that I had to convince to actually getting into multi-units, right? But he was nervous, scared of debt. So, and rather than getting into multi-units at this point in his life, he said, "Well, guess what, Bird? I don't like debt, right? I'm scared of debt. Like debt was like the boogeyman or something, right?" He said, "I'm scared," and I said, "Okay, so what you gonna do?" He said, "What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save $300,000." Okay, how long is that gonna take? Oh man, maybe I get it in like, I don't know, 15 years, let's say, right? So you're gonna work 15 years straight, save up to 300,000 and buy the property all in cash. And he said, "Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I got it. I said, "Okay." And he wasn't thinking about multi-units. So he was just gonna buy a big old liability that he had to pay property tax on until the day he dies on it. But whatever. But nevertheless, he said, "Okay, I'll buy the multi-unit then." And I said, "So instead of right now taking $100 and getting the $300,000 property, right? And then over that span of 15 years, having the renters pay that mortgage, you would rather, right, go out, work every day, wherever you work at, for 15 years straight, and then purchase a property in all cash just because you're scared of debt. While other people are leveraging debt to build businesses, while America has leveraged debt to build itself into an empire that stretches out across the world, while other people have used debt to leverage themselves into multi-units, 100 condominiums, the people you pay rent to utilize debt to get you to pay them. So once again, we have to put ourselves out of the culture of bad debt. We're afraid of debt because the majority of the people we may or may not know or been direct or indirectly in contact with have utilized it for ignorance, to acquire things that don't appreciate and create value. And we have to change that paradigm by educating ourselves about how things work. You can't be broken woke. End of story.
Can't be broken woke. There you go.
And that shout out to Julian Gordon. I didn't say that, but Julian Gordon said that. You can't be broken woke. We got too many people out here talking about they woke, they know the system, but they're losing. They're losing. That's for sure. They can't build no schools, no streets, no electricity, no water, talking about they know the system. I done figured it out, D. I know everything. Okay, cool. Show me how to make electricity. Well, first we got to do is identify as Hebrew Israelites. Come on. This is where we at. That's facts. And no shout outs to Hebrew Israelites, but it'll be some other name if it wasn't that, right? We have to do that. That's the first step in order. Okay, I'll say you right. I concede. I won't even argue. Okay, now what? We Hebrew, now what? Or now we Chickasaw, now what? Now we foundational DOS, now what? Now we Africans from the continent of Africa, right? Now we from the Egyptian pyramids, we Kemetic. Okay, now what? What's the move after that?
Right.
Just let me know. And then I'll be like, let's go. Because I don't know everything, but it's usually nothing. The financing, how we're going to set things up, right? We're going to be like, let's get on cryptocurrency. Stop the show. Come on, man. So we got to figure it out. So while you figure that game plan out, I'm gonna at least try to show people, hey, look, this is how we cultivate money right now. This is how we get rid of our assets. This is how we need to reevaluate debt. This is how we need to look at taxes, right? We need to understand, quote unquote, if we so woke, right? If we know the system, we understand the system and how it works. We haven't been able to defeat it and beat it, or we haven't been able to build something of our own. And I'm not trying to get into schematics about X, Y, and Z about building nothing, right? What I'm trying to do is say, while individuals will argue Biden or Trump is going to do X, Y, and Z for X, Y, and Z, I would rather just utilize the property and the assets in which I own already, and then utilize my own stimulus program, provide cuts for everybody else, and then write it off on my taxes. I would rather do that than to say, hey, everybody get with me, line up on the chicken circuit, and I swear to beans, we gonna make it to the promised land. It ain't good enough. We've been doing that for a while. But if that's your camp, let me know how that work out.
No, go ahead,
Money,
Brandon. Oh,
okay,
go ahead. Finish your statement.
No, I was gonna say, money is not important, but it's right up there with oxygen.
Right.
Les Brown, that's not me. Shout out to Brooklyn.
All right, go ahead, Brandon.
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. Hello, BA. I don't know why we're still calling you BA. Obstacles to Opportunities.
Yeah, what's up, man?
But basically, we have all read Dr. Amos Wilson, and Dr. Amos Wilson talks about how another group of people actually determine, what we need to do or what we need to buy or acquire to make us happy, right? So since we know that that's a reality that we face as a people, what can we do to at least start the process of undoing that programming? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that are expected of our people, but it's like there's some realities that need to be addressed when it comes to us on a macro level. Because on a macro level, some of us slip through, we get through and do things. But on a macro level, it's like it's kind of a non-starter if these people are like, yo, but I need to buy a Mercedes, or I need to buy a single family home because that's what someone else programmed us to think. What can we do to undo that?
Yeah. All right, bet. And shout outs to you, first of all, man. Love what you do. Keep doing what you're doing. And you got the cut, man. What, you clean cut, man, now? Something like that. Okay, so I didn't take it there. But so back to what you were saying, and what I think and what I would analyze is I kind of made an observation of Julian Gordon. I don't know if you guys heard of him, but he runs the multifamily movement, and he's super religious too. He has what is the principle? The book he just made, or he's bringing out, called Religious and Rich and Righteous, or something like that. Yeah. So he really comes from a religious standpoint. And while I'm not, I know a good amount of people that are, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been the reverse in the religious aspects, where it was like, to have money is bad, don't do it, right? And so what he's been able to do is cultivate something of a flavor that is of religious origin, that has that, hey, we should be accumulating wealth. Hey, you getting a single family home is stupid. Let other people go chase those greens. I'm trying to create the Underground Railroad. I'm trying to, and then he connects it also to Black history. He connects it all to the people's history and story. And I like the variation which he does, because it's not just dry and cut, right? Saying, get multi-units and get rich and go buy Louis Vuitton. I mean, other people are like that, and they're going to appeal to people who have those appetites. But with him specifically, from riches to righteous, or I don't want to slaughter it, but it's something of that, right? I like the way in which he advertises it. And then he, of course, is about his broadcast, his message, and making sure he puts something that will, of course, spiritually uplift the people which are going to listen to him. And then they can now look at those endeavors of acquiring assets, of multifamilies, and figuring out how to acquire houses to provide housing, right? People are going to look at it from that religious standpoint. And I think a lot of people do have that religious standpoint. I think he even brought up the case. You know how some people would say, oh, this and that and that and that. I think he said something of the nature like, no, I don't want to misquote it, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But nevertheless, to most of his things he says, he put a lot of religious pretense to it. Now, like again, I said, I'm not that crowd, a part of that crowd, but I can respect it because I do understand that people believe in God and they believe in Christianity, and nevertheless, the way he appeals to it and the way he goes about it, net of the situation, he does help people acquire assets and get them in that mentality and rewire that mind frame in which I probably grew up in my church with, which was bad money, bad. God don't like money. It's not good. Stay away from it. Those who have it are evil. It's easier for the camel to pass through the needle and you heard all the other stuff, right? And to a rich man to get into heaven, blah, blah, blah. He kind of flips that and then provides a new story and a new narration. He's a great storyteller and he's a great inspirator. So I think doing that in many different variations of the many different tastes that people have in our culture, because it's not a monolith, right? So the many different tastes, that would help also, from my opinion, in my analysis. But anybody else who has something else, I'll hear that out too.
Okay, I have another question for you. So as we all know, there are a lot of people who are very motivated along these lines, like make investments, the acquisition of assets, things like that. But also, we know that many people who have that mindset are kind of struggling at a low level. Maybe they don't have a lot of capital. Maybe they work hard every day, but they also have situations that deplete their resources. How would you say we could connect people like with opportunities at the lowest level? Like Julian Gordon, I've talked to him and I see what he's got going. It's very good. But at the end of the day, the reality of it is you have to have some type of credit. You have to have some type of capital. And I think that's the elephant in the room that we just maybe sometimes we're too embarrassed to discuss or bring up. But like a lot of our people specifically, they don't have the kind of capital to make these things a reality for themselves. I know some people just have bad spending habits, but some people just got no money. How do we connect those people to the opportunity so they can work their way up? Kind of like a multi-level marketing type situation.
Okay. And I think it's kind of, so my first deal I closed, I didn't use any money. Money is not always required to have the money down, and it's not always required to have credit. So we need to learn about subject to. We need to learn about seller financing. We need to learn about these different type of financial vehicles that allow people to get into property and get them off the hands of people who inherit property, people who have distressed property. It's at the end of the day, it comes to a level of being able to provide a service to your own community for people who are struggling in properties. So I think the connectivity of the boule and the bourgeoisie, the ones who have access to capital, the ones who have access to money, right? It needs to be reconnected to those people who don't, right? And in that way that they could buy those vehicles and give people maybe a second chance, not a third, fourth, or fifth, because sometimes, like you say, you're going to just have to let them be in the, you're going to have to let them ride out. Everybody's not going to make it. But nevertheless, there is other ways to go about it. But we always defeat ourselves by starting with the mind frame of, I don't have capital, I don't have money. Well, that would be fine and dandy in an age where you needed to pay in order to get this information and knowledge. But this information and knowledge is free as of now, right? So with it being free, you can educate yourself in that area and say, how do I get seller financing? How do I tap into these properties and subject to? Because like I said, if you do subject to on a multifamily or do subject to on just a single family home, right? That's somebody who has a distressed property. They no longer want to put up for it for whatever reason. There's a lot of people who are old, want to downsize and move to Florida, somewhere on the beach. I don't know, right? Or maybe people just inherit it and it's been a weight on them. It's been nothing but an expense, right? And you're already paying rent on your condo, or you're already struggling in the rent that you pay. And let me break that down for a little bit, if I can, Dynas, real quick, because I want to go into this. Me learning about real estate, Brandon, I learned this, that if you go into our communities, right, it's always known as the area for cash flow. And that's not good, because cash flow is margins, meaning that the property I really bought that's in your neighborhood, I bought it for like 60K, right? Now, if I bought it for 60K, a great return on that property per month would be $600. But they make $1,000 to $1,200. So the overload of how much that property is really valued is crazy. So I'm making $600 a buck off of that one property every month out of your pocket as the renter. You move into other communities, they're known to have small margins. You don't get cash flow, you only get appreciation. So therefore, when you're in a whole different area, right? Now you're dealing with a property where you're like, dang, I only maybe make 100, if not at all. So in that community, you cannot have that different type of gap, right? That large margin on those people, because that's not how their equations or their property value work. So that's why I said it's very essential for us to get into it so we can understand these things and figure out how to disengage that large margin that our people are getting wealth extracted out of them, out of their largest expense, right? And that's the household. Remember, most people's expenses is household, and then maybe followed by a car. But everybody usually has somewhere they need to live. So we need to mitigate that. That's why I'm not really coming at people for Jordans or no weaves, because the biggest expense is going to be that rent. It's going to be that, house expense, whether you got a mortgage. But let's say most of them have, they just pay rent, right? So we need to figure that part out, and especially with rent being supplemented for government programs. That's really an advantage for some house hacking and all these other different things that I, like to discuss. So as going back to what we were talking or what you were asking, I think your program that you specifically had, right, that allowed people at a lower price point, not, oh, give me $10,000, let's go buy land, right? It was more realistic on $25. We need to create more vehicles like that. And we need to do more trial and error situations, right? With smaller groups, try it again, and then make it better, increase it, and create those better vehicles, and have discussions around those, like how to create better groups, investment groups, better financial vehicles for the average consumer to buy in for an average American standard price, something that they can actually realistically buy into. And I think $20 to $25 to even $30 is way more realistic than, of course, like I said, dealing with these larger numbers of multifamily. That's for people up in the, let's say, 50,000 or, the 60,000 plus. Because even with 60,000, you could rearrange your life to make you bring in more money. And then, like I said, you learn more about real estate, and you can learn how you're not going to pay any taxes in the United States of America. And I know it sounds crazy because it's like, hey, I don't have money to get into property. Well, you don't need it, because there's a lot of people out here going from 0 to 75 apartment buildings with zero money down. And it wasn't credit. Now, I'm not saying everybody can do it, but what I'm saying is a good amount of people can do it, and we can figure that out. And then, of course, pass on the information. But the information is the main thing that's been restricted. The information has not been a part of the culture. Speaking about what I'm speaking about, I'm getting Z's in the comment section. That's our culture. It's anti-providing something that is economically empowering for us. We heard more I have a dreams than less of coming to get the check. We heard more of I have a dream instead of more of the economic power. We haven't even dived into the particulars of the actual Black Star Line. Somebody tell me something about the Black Star Line economically, about the intake. How did income come in, and how did they gain capital and raise money? Nobody knows. I got right here back on my placard the first stock ticket for the Black Star Line, because what? Marcus Garvey gave out stocks for it. He created it. He created his own investment vehicles. But instead, now we're riding the nuts of Bitcoin, thinking that we own something, instead of creating our own financial vehicles to raise money and invest money, and then to figure out how to gain capital. And then not only at a high level, like you were talking about, Pan-African, but also at a lower level, where the actual average consumer can actually do it. I hope
Can I ask you another question? Okay. So
go ahead. I ain't trying to take up the show or nothing.
It's your time. What I want to ask you is, so you have a lot of people who they do have money, and a lot of people who have tried different things and maybe they failed at it, or specifically in our community, they've been taken advantage of, right? So what would your message be to those people who maybe have went out on a limb, have taken a risk, because there's risks involved in all of this, and then they failed? Like, how do you rationalize those people moving forward, or to step back out into step back on the dance floor, so to speak, and try new things to gain money or to acquire wealth?
Man, yo, you hear me with the, okay, that's nice. So what I think and what I analyze from there is that, from me, in my experience, I took mad L's. I ain't calling out nobody's name, but I done put money out there in the lime wire and I ain't get nothing. You know, I ain't received no callbacks. I ain't received no goddamn nothing, bro. I was like, what the hell? And of course, it made me feel mad different ways. I flew my black self to Brazil, Salvador, try to start a business. I was pulling people together, lawyers and all this other stuff, dealing with all sorts of problems, right? But the problem with me at that point is I wanted something so bad that even though I saw that somebody really wasn't quite ready for it at that time, I'm not going to say they were bums, but I pushed it anyways because what I wanted, I wanted to see this work. So I kept pushing it through. And sometimes you need that verification. Like, I need to see proof. I need to see you being able to do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes we need to check for that. I'm not saying that's the only determined factor, right? That somebody could say whether they can or can't do something. But I would say sometimes we need to look for it. And as much as you get knocked down, as much as you fall flat on yourself, you got to keep pushing forward. But you have to learn, because this is the one thing that I learned from a lot of the books that I read about just financial literacy, about, whether you want to be an investor, right? Is that you get rewarded in school for not making mistakes, right?
Right.
Like, don't mess up. You live life not trying to mess up, almost through K through 12. And then if you go to college, you a real educated Negro of not messing up, right? And if we know anything about real life, and especially about becoming an investor and an entrepreneur, it's the mistakes that make you, not break you, right? It's the mistakes that make you better, because it allows you to actually learn from your experiences. And then if you learn from your mistakes, then I always say you turn your losses into lessons, and then you turn them into blessings, and then the most deadliest weapons. So it is the mistakes that you make that actually put you in the right direction. So when people get confused and they say, man, I made a mistake, I crapped out. No. You learned the lesson, and there's a lesson to be learned. And if you don't understand that and analyze it properly, then you'll take the loss. But the loss is not the initial loss on the capital, the wrong, venture that you did with another person, right? I remember I had just now, I told you, Dennis, I had to deal with the brother about $1 million in Chicago. We were going to pull the deal, and then he just backed out, ghosted me and shit. Like, I ain't heard from the boy since, And I'm like, what the hell? I spent like 20 hours on that deal. But I was mad. I was like, dang. But I looked back and I was like, I was kind of pushing it. And then on top of that, I'd rather him pull out now after I put my money on the deal, because then my money's gone. My money's out on the deal. You feel me? So right. I'd rather take it now. I'd rather learn from that. And I did learn from that. So most people who want to do that, they have to prove to me, hey, I'm out here. I did the education myself. I did this. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to walk me and hold my hand through this whole obstacle. And luckily, I've been able, just off the phone just now, I was able to link up with 3 other brothers who all are trying to do the same thing in real estate. They've already put in the property under contract, and me coming in has only helped the group and added another asset to the group. So it worked out like that. But what I'm saying is the mistakes make you. So if you find yourself messing up, you find yourself falling, that's what makes investors great. That's what makes entrepreneurs great. There's no entrepreneur and big time investor that's not going to tell you I took losses. I failed again and again and again and again and again. And that's what makes you better, not making mistakes. That's what makes you a tool.
Can I ask one last question, please?
No disrespect to the tools.
Okay, this is my last question, and this one gonna put you on the spot, because I'm here for the broke folks like you. Okay, you have $1,000 right now of liquid income you can for investment. What are the first 3 steps you take with that $1,000 to put you on the path to acquiring an asset?
Wait, you said you got $1,000, right?
Yes.
And then what is that? Every month coming in, or at the end of the year?
You
Or
just have $1,000.
That's it.
That's it. First, we starting at the lowest level. So
Okay.
you have $1,000 in the bank. Your stimulus didn't hit. You blew half of it at the club, and 1,000 is remaining. What are the first 3 moves you make with that 1,000 to get you rolling?
Keep it.
Hold on to it.
Yeah, keep it. That's number one. Even though that's the safest way to lose it, but you're at a point where you're already down there, so it's not like inflation is going to beat you out. Keep it. Now I have to ask follow-up questions because I can't just be like, you know what I'm saying? I got to figure out what the hell this guy doing. So does he have a job? And if he does, if he doesn't, then I could rearrange and, you know, redirect.
Yeah, if he has some money coming in. But what you said was amazing in itself, because the foundation is what? Saving.
Hold it.
That's our number one problem. We don't know how to save money. Every penny we get, we spend it. And that, you know, like I know, but getting down to the fundamental issue that usually works as the first hurdle that most of us can't get over. What? Saving your money. Because we weren't taught to save.
No, I agree.
So you answered the question. You would keep it and hold it until you get more money to spring for an investment.
And even if you don't, and this is a good part about it, just hold it. Because even if you don't get more money, you'll get more knowledge and still educate yourself. Like I said, educate yourself on investments. Because once I want to explain this if it's okay, Donis, you know?
Go ahead.
In the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where somebody said don't read it, right? But in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? The little kids, right? He let them work at the shop, right? And he was going to pay them some money. He was paying them like, I don't know, like 2 cents or something like that. So the kids were stupid mad. They was like, man, I'm doing all this work and I'm on 2 cents and I'm missing my Saturdays, right? And so they had a meeting with the guy, the rich dad, quote unquote, right? And then the educated dad, which was his poor dad, was telling him, that ain't right. Go there and tell that man if you don't pay you $5, then X, Y, and Z. So the kid met him, right? And he was like, I'm going to quit, but I'm going to talk to your dad first. So then he started to yell at the rich dad, right? And then he was like, oh, it's good. He's like, most people in the world just accept it and shut up. But I respect you for coming up and speaking to me. And he was like, so you can go back to work at my shop, but for zero money. And he's like, what? You mean you ain't going to give me a raise? He said, nope. You can go back and work for no money. And then the kid went back to work for no money, right? Because he was like, okay, there's some lessons to be learned. This guy tricking me. Maybe there's something here. Anyways, net of it is when he wasn't getting paid, he started looking for more opportunities. So he ended up finding something, which was the lady at the end of the day, she used to discard the comic books and throw them in the trash and give them back to the publisher, right? So the kids saw that one time when they were leaving. They were there the whole time, but when they were getting paid, they just came into the job and left, right? They didn't look for no opportunities. But when that was taken away, they was like looking for it, right? So anyways, they talked to the guy and the guy was like, well, you cannot resell these. So the kids were like, okay, we're not going to resell them. He was like, all right, I'll give you the books, but you can't resell them. If I find you reselling them, you're going to be in trouble and you ain't going to get no more. The kids said, we won't. So what the kids did is they opened up a library and then they took all those comic books with the, front covers torn out and let the kids buy their way in 10 cents. So instead of kids going for 10 cents to buy one comic book, they could read like 5 or 6 within an hour because they put a time frame on it. And the kids start making way more money than even the actual rich dad was going to offer them. And then, a fight broke out and then it kind of shut down their business. But nevertheless, they were able to see that before. So when I say hold that money because the first step was saving. Now your mentality has changed. You've been able to retain capital. And then now you have to cultivate your mind, sharpen your sword, right? In order to figure out how to make that $1,000 into $1 million. And it sounds like an impossible defeat, but it's only information and education that's the bridge in between it.
Right. Okay. So basically, you gotta at that point you gotta get creative. That's where you gotta tap
super duper
creativity. All right, I feel you. I feel like that's where a lot of our people are at. We have a lot of great ideas, but we don't have a lot of capital. So we need to learn how to we need to basically manufacture an idea in our mind that matches the capital that we got.
And I could give you this, right? Like this is just an example. I'm not saying this, but I think this would be somewhere I would look if that was me. I'd be like, dang, with the knowledge I got now, right? I'll be like, dang, I got 1,000 and that's all I got. And relatively, I ain't gonna have much more, right? I got to pay rent. I'm saying I'm paying rent. I ain't gonna say I'm a homeowner, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would do with the knowledge I have now, I'll be like, okay, I'll wait. Take that $1,000, and y'all gonna be looking at me crazy, but this is real life. Other people do it all day. Other people do it all day to our people. But I'll wait, and I'll find me distressed property. You can look it up right on the internet too. Distressed property. And I'll find the young, older black lady, the older black man, right, who had a property in their family and now is starting to weigh on them, meaning they're too old to do the rehabs and handiwork and keep up with it. I'm renting. Remember, Dinas, I'm paying like $600 or let's say, $800, whatever, right? So I approached them to say, hey, I got $1,000. That's all I got. But I can guarantee you that I'll pay you, let's say I was paying $600 at my other crib, right? Give me this property subject to, I'll go get the paperwork. We can fill it out, get it signed, right? And get in front of a lawyer, which is not going to cost you a lot because they're just looking over the transaction. It's not like they got to create the document for you. Template. We in 2021. Back then, they would have really had to make it for you. So now you get that subject to, and you'll say, I'll take over it. You can relax, take my $1,000. And I know it doesn't sound like, but that's all they need. That's all they need to get up out of there and move into something else and, live off of their Social Security and something more downsized, something more comfortable, and something without all those responsibilities. Or they can say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to let the bank take it from us. I'm going to let the bank confiscate it. Or I'm going to let these big venture capitals or these businesses that are, gobbling up all the property take it from me. They're not going to let that happen either. And then usually you rework the deal with the state saying, hey, I'm going to be in charge of it. I'm going to bring it up to speed. And then you only got it for $1,000. But what you did is take a liability and a bankruptcy in a lien off of her name and off of her and allowed her to go in peace and then take a little, like I said, or his, retirement money and just go into something small and just relax for the rest of their lives. These people don't want to have to deal with it. They're in strange situations and you're young. If you're young, you could put some work in, build some appraised value in it, start cleaning, start breaking it down, do some lawn work, start building value into the property. And then now you're starting to create money off of nothing. You're sweating labor and $1,000.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dinas, for letting me come on. I'm done with my questions.
No problem. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, man.
No problem. So what we'll do, obstacles to opportunities. We'll go ahead and close out, brother. Anything else you'd like to share in closing? How can people reach you and shout out your page as well?
Okay, shout out to everybody. Obstacles to opportunity. You just go ahead and type it in the YouTube stream. Obstacles to opportunity. If you want to reach me, it's obstacles.opportunity@gmail. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on IG, and I'm also out here in these streets with Dinas Demir. So get off your ass and cold call. If you don't believe it's true, then you don't know nothing. And if you don't know, now you know. Get off your ass and cold call. Sales Motivation 101 by D.A. I'm B-A-U-D-A. But yes, nevertheless, thank you for actually having me on the show. I know it kind of took a redirection, but like I said, I want to talk about the particulars. Just throw words at people that they can Google. They might not understand everything I said, but they'll Google subject to. They'll Google seller or owner financing or for sale by owner. And then that will start the saga. So once again, I appreciate Pan-Africanism Strikes Back coming in here, asking them marvelous questions. And like I said, we need to have more build sessions like this so people can hear stuff that they can actually apply to their life right now and then get themselves in a better position. So much love to everybody. And like I said, money is not important, but it's right up there with oxygen. Yes, so we need to worry about it.
Until next time, family, Dinas Demir search for Uhuru. And someone in the chat room has a comment, but you had the opportunity to call in and you didn't. So until next time, family, Dinas Demir search for Uhuru. Peace.